Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, and let's talk about subprime crisis. Are we getting ready to go into a subprime crisis? Are we getting ready to go into another fall in the market as a result of some of this subprime debt, kind of being null and void? So here's an article from the Wall Street Journal, and we're talking about more subprime borrowers are missing loan payments. We know that subprime is probably going to be people that got a limited credit history or got a bad credit history, and they're starting to see that they're defaulting on credit cards, car loans, and also personal loans, which to me are always given out to people that are in a bad financial position already. Then they go take on a personal loan, which can make it even more difficult if they have not learned really, really good money management. It usually takes a bad situation, makes it worse. And so let's go ahead and talk about it. So what we're seeing is that the share of subprime credit cards or personal loans that are at least 60 days late is rising faster than normal, according to Equifax, which does a lot of credit reporting, a lot of aggregation around the credit markets. And in March of 2022, these delinquencies rose month over month for the 8th time in a row, nearing their pre-pandemic level. So one of the things that we saw was that there was a level of delinquencies pretty much before the pandemic, and probably because of the pandemic, probably because of a lot of stimulus money, a lot of that got a lot softer, and people was finally able to make their payments. And delinquencies on subprime car loans and leases hit an all-time high in February, based on Equifax tracking that goes back to 2007. So many people include those with less than perfect credit, which is pretty much everybody. Hardly anybody has what we call perfect credit. They paid off their debts. They built up their savings during the pandemic. And then a lot of borrowers thought that people would default en masse when COVID-19 hit. However, people got a lot of stimulus money, so it allowed them to make sure that they were able to deal with that particular debt set servicing. So I don't believe people paid off as much as the fact that they just actually serviced the debt, right? And it allowed them to service a lot of that debt, keep that debt going, and also go and apply for more debt. And as a result, the government sent out stimulus payments, child tax credits, and those that liquidity and those cash payments helped a lot of people's financial position that was not in a great situation. And we're looking at this particular graph, and this is from Equifax, of subprime accounts at least 60 days past due. And if we're looking at March 2022, it's pretty much almost from the credit cards. Okay, so the credit cards are almost where we were at in March 2020. If we look at the auto loans and leases, those are higher than where we were in March 2020. And if we also look at the personal loans and lines of credit, those are almost where we were at in March 2020. So we're pretty much back right where we were before the particular pandemic hit. And we were at 12% on auto loans past due 60 days. We were at around 7% on auto loans and leases. And then we were at around, let's say, 11% on credit cards. And what we find is that because of the lesson they learned in 2008, lenders have kept their standards for mortgage loans relatively strict. And it meant that even though the market was really hot, there was a lot of demand on inventory, they were able to keep the applications really, really, very strict in their applications and their underwriting. So you pretty much had to have a really great credit situation to be able to get a home, even though the market was really hot. So that market is considered relatively stable. So what people look to do was to try to figure out how to generate more yield. They went after the subprime customers. Now, there's a narrative, and this is something that's promoted really heavily online, is that, you're a bad applicant because you're subprime. And I don't want to go into this now. I did a video with Erica Williams, I want to say almost a year ago, on the debt market. And in reality, subprime customers, especially from a group, they make more money for the financial services industry than people that have really good credit. Why? Because you can charge them a higher rate. They make money selling money. You make more money selling money by the rate that you can charge. The person got 800 credit. You can't charge them a high rate. Why? Because they got other places they can go to get credit. When a person got a 600 or maybe a 620, and they got a bad history, a lot of derogatory items on their credit, items that are considered derogatory, they now got to pay more to get access to capital. Therefore, what? You can make more money off them. So we have a negative perception of people that are subprime, when in reality, subprime people make the financial services industry more money than people that are considered in a great credit scenario. So subprime lending hit records last year when measured by the total dollar amount of personal loans originated and spending limits on new general purpose credit cards, according to Equifax. And car loan and lease delinquencies hit a record in February, based on Equifax tracking, with 8.8 of subprime accounts behind on payment by at least 60 days. This edged down to 8.5 in March, but still was the second highest level on record. And we talk about Upstart Holdings, Opportune Financial Corp, and One Main Holdings, which facilitate or extend personal loans to people with limited credit histories or low credit scores, also reported increased delinquencies for the first quarter. And then we talked about Upstart said on its earnings last week, which was now probably 2 weeks ago, that government stimulus led to a temporary overperformance of customers. And what we mean is that government stimulus allowed customers to pay more than probably what they would normally pay under normal circumstances. It recently reintroduced loan modification for borrowers who are struggling to keep up with payments. Here's Upstart's chart. We see they came out in 2021. They was essentially an IPO. That little sell-off in late May was their lockup. Then they ran up to $400, right? And then from there, they've just fallen down. They've fallen down with the overall market sell-off. And then we see that last really, really strong red bar all the way to the far right. That was when they reported their earnings, and they slammed down really, really hard the day right after that. And we see them now trading at around $44, and they're pretty much right at their IPO price. So if you'd have bought that IPO and held it, you're right back where you started. This is why buying IPOs are so dangerous. That's not investment advice. That's just my own personal opinion. And so Upstart has to figure out now how to deal with the fact that they have a portfolio of customers that are probably 60 days late. They may not be able to make their payments. So they got to now try to create some program to keep them paying, because like I said before, is that you just want to keep them in the deal and keep them paying, even if you got to extend the payments out. That's going to be our particular article. Let me know if you got any comments, and then what you want to try to figure out can you do. Is that going to be any opportunities for you in the market based on this situation and the severity of the situation? David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. I'll talk to you later.